Welcome back to another episode 3 of Youth in the Loop, a talk show geared at youth, for the youth, youth expressing themselves in controversial issues. I am your host, Philippa Dixon Laney, alongside my co-host, Norris Kimball. On our panel today, we have Kathleen, Samantha, Japheth, and Fabian. Today's discussion will be how can young people balance ambition with self-care? The Merriam-Webster Dictionary defines ambition as a strong desire to do or to achieve something, typically requiring determination and hard work. Self-care is a practice of taking action to preserve or improve one's own health. Balancing self-care and ambition is key to unlocking your full potential. Ambition drives us toward our greatest achievements, yet with proper balance, it can undermine the very success we seek. Many high achievers operate under the misconception that self-care detracts from ambition, viewing it as time that could be spent on productive pursuits. The reality is, self-care and ambition aren't opposing forces, but complementary elements that, when balanced properly, create sustainable success. Come with us and let us explore this topic some more. Norris, you will kickstart the discussion.
I'm excited to hear this conversation that will take place. I want to begin the conversation, and I actually want to start off with Fabian. You will start this conversation, and everyone just jump in. I want to define ambition, and I then want you to define self-care. And keep in mind, the world or many will define self-care as only an outward appearance of trying to make themselves look good. But self-care, do you look at your mental state, your faith, and everything as that being a part of self-care? So I'm gonna start off with Mr. Fabian Isidore.
All right. Good evening again, everyone. Sorry. Yes. Self-ambition, I see myself. I often refer to myself as ambitious. But ambition is something that is given to us by God to desire. It's like a pursuit for growth, excellence, and not just excellence, but purpose. So you always seeking more, right?
Okay.
And so it's not that you're not satisfied with where you are, but you just wanting to give off your best. And so you're looking for avenues, you're looking for ways. And for me, you can be ambitious in several ways. At work, even in church, in Christ, you can be ambitious. You just seek to learn, you seek to understand. And so, whilst ambition in the world, one may see it as looking at finding yourself with different forms of employment. But as a young person, you can be ambitious in the word by in Christianity by finding different ways to study, different means. So you're looking at free being, you're looking at this one, Doug Batchelor, you got Mark Finley, Hope 360. So you're looking around and you're ambitious. So you're looking at avenue, you're comparing, you're studying, you're looking through your Bible at the same time. And so for me, that is a form of being ambitious as it relates to me as a Christian. And self-care, on the other hand, is where you take time for yourself. So as much as you ambitious, because certain times because some persons are ambitious, they neglect self-care. So as much self-care, even whilst you're ambitious, you're taking time to ensure that this temple, that your body that God have given you is well taken care of.
Okay, but let me ask this question here. When you talk about self-care, are we
Right.
all talking about just an image on the outside, but are we dealing with matters of the heart? Are we talking about our spiritual state of mind? You know, that mental state of mind. Does all these fall up under state self care?
Yes, all of them do actually, because really and truly it has to be balanced emotionally, spiritually, and psychologically, mentally. And so you need to ensure that even whilst it's not just you just taking care to just rest. That's not enough, you know? So you need to ensure that you're also taking care of yourself spiritually, right? Resting and mentally as well. And all of these things based on your life and your schedule, you know the way you would take some time out to rest, whether it is mentally, just take a walk in nature, spiritually, as well every week. I assume we take some time for self-care spiritually, when we rest on the Sabbath. And even while some of us, we may be active in service, but it's also a form of self-care, that we take some time off to just reflect on God and His Word and creation.
Most definitely. Thank you so much. So this is a conversation, ladies and gentlemen, just jump in. How do you define self-care? How do you define ambition? How do they work together?
Okay, I think for me, there's two things that comes to mind when it comes to ambition. And the two words are being purpose driven. As Fabian rightfully said, it could be towards, your local church or maybe towards your work, your job. There are many different avenues where we can be ambitious towards, but the two words that come to mind mainly for ambitious is being purpose driven for anything that you're doing, purpose driven, right? And another word we could use also is zealous, being zealous for something. When it comes to self-care, it's basically taking care of yourself. I know it's very self-explanatory. However, it's important for us to understand that the holistic development is important. I know Fabian mentioned, taking time out on the Sabbath to restore yourself in Christ. That's important as well. But even when we do that spiritually, we have to be careful that it's not an imbalance between, the physical, the mental, the emotional, because it's very interesting. I thought about this person, as Fabian was talking, Ellen G. White's husband. He was very zealous about, doing the work of God. However, in the end, he died, how I see it, he died prematurely because he was very ambitious and zealous about doing the word of God. However, he wasn't taking care of himself. So I think that's also important as well.
So,
Okay.
so I'm seeing here, is it that self-care should be intentional? I don't know, but from just listening to you speak, immediately I recognize that self-care, it should be intentional. So you need to be intentional about preserving your physical, your mental, your social well-being. It's something that you need to be deliberate about. Because it's easy to get swayed and so much into ambition that you forget, like, because your mind, it forms that habit that every moment it just goes into ambitious, a seeking and acquiring and doing and fulfilling. And so the same way you can program your mind to get to that point where your mind, you intentionally, deliberately, cautiously make a decision to take care of yourself.
Okay, come on, ladies.
I agree with both of the panelists. For me, I consider ambition as two-parter. One, it's ambition towards yourself, as in your personal goals. If you're looking towards your career, if you are focusing on what type of job you want or where you see your life in 5 to 10 years from now, things that you're trying to do in order to achieve those goals. There's the personal aspect, but then there's also the kingdom, the kingdom seeking aspect, where how can I further the advancement of God's kingdom? What can I do in order to help spread the word, spread the gospel? How many people can I talk to? How can I help achieve these goals that God has laid upon my heart in order for me to achieve? So I think that's how ambition can be defined into two parts. Now, for me, with self-care, I consider it as self-maintenance. Consider yourself as a car, right? Every car needs its tune-up. It needs the gas to be put in, it needs to be washed, it needs to be taken care of in order to keep going. But if you neglect to do those things, the car's gonna fall apart. You're gonna start having the what is it, the warning sign every so often. Your tires are going to need air in them. You won't be able to get to those goals that you want to. You won't be able to go to those places that you have in mind to go to if you're not properly taking care of that car. And I think that can be applied to ourselves. It's important that we consider all aspects of us: our health, our mental health, our physical health, our mental health, our emotional health, our spiritual health. All of these are important. I feel as though we shouldn't just focus on just one part of it. We have to make sure that we're taking care of every single part, because if one part is neglected, then I feel as though it can kind of bleed out into the other part. And before you know it, you overall will kind of fall apart, essentially like the car. So I think it's unfortunate that some people may consider self-care as kind of taking away from like pursuing your ambition, but instead they should both be on the same level, and that you should both try to achieve both.
Okay, let me ask this question, Samantha, before, because see what I'm hearing. See, Mr. Hamilton said, he said something that he used the term zealous, and we can become zealous, but then we can also cross that line as becoming fanatic. Some of us can be overzealous, and we can become fanatic. So how now? This is where the balance come in. Samantha, talk to me about not becoming a fanatic, not to becoming overzealous, overdoing it. How do you balance that?
Firstly, when people tend to become like hyper individualists, is because something mentally is going on firstly. Sometimes they could be depressed, they could be overly stressed. So sometimes it's easy to prevent, but sometimes it could just happen on its own when you don't really have some type of structure in your life. So for you to not get to that point, I think you should worry about your purpose. Because for me, if I'm doing something not just for myself, I'm doing it because I want to get closer to God. I want to do it because I want to uphold my family name. There has to be some kind of purpose that's not just you alone, because you alone wasn't in this world in the first place. So if you go with the mentality of empathy, you're thinking about how they would feel, how they would react, how they're going to perceive it. So when you put your not too much of them on you, because sometimes people's viewpoints can corrupt and change how you feel. So I would say you should always be focused on what I'm doing is for the greater good and have some type of structure. If you keep like some type of plan, a business plan, whether it's me with my career, if you're when you have to be like, family, work, working on your relationship with God, that's between you and your plan and how you could benefit others, and knowing the needs that need to be met, not the wants. So I would say just have some type of plan.
Okay, I'm going to turn it over to you, Miss Dixon Lamey. I will revisit that fanaticism later on.
Okay, so even Jesus, he allowed his followers to do self-care. He fed them, he allowed them to rest. Now, why do you think balancing ambition and self-care matters? The floor is open.
I
Why?
think
Can you just repeat the question?
Why do you think balancing ambition and self-care matters?
Because there should be a balance, because without self-care without ambition may lead to stagnation. And ambition, on the other hand, without self-care may lead to burnout.
I'm happy you touched that. Very good.
Now, Christ calls us to leave someone to balance the two, because he doesn't want us to be stagnant. He said us as newborn babes desire the sincere milk of the word in Peter. He tells us in Hebrews, when you ought to have need of strong milk, you still eating of strong meat, you still depending on milk. So there's he shows us that, listen, that there should not be stagnation in the Christian journey, in our Christian walk. However, he also tells us that, listen, our bodies now are a temple of the Holy Ghost in which he dwells. And so therefore, we need to take care of that temple. That's why he says, be temperate in all things, right? So we need to be temperate. That is, even whilst we may be ambitious, like Paul, and zealous like Paul, we need now to take that time now, sometime that is self-care, to take care of that temple before we lead to a burnout, or even before well, in Paul's situation, his eyesight was affected, and in others, as he mentioned, James White, Ellen White's husband, he died prematurely. He is ambitious about the work, the present truth, and guess what? Even whilst he heralded that call, he wasn't able to be, would say it, to really be there when that gospel would have reached all the continents, I would say, you know. So yeah, there need to be a balance.
Okay. I'm not going to touch the whole burnout thing yet. That's the part B to my question.
All right.
So, for the other panelists, why do you think balancing ambition and self-care matters?
I think that it's important to make sure that you achieve both, because if you neglect to take care of yourself, but you are continuing to be ambitious, I feel as though you can only be able to achieve so much. It's essentially like you are limiting yourself. It's kind of as if you won't be able to achieve all of the goals that you have in mind, because one way or another, whether it's your physical health or your mental health, something is going to deteriorate, and that will lead to you stopping. It's kind of like self-sabotage. It's stopping you from being able to achieve what you want to do. So in order to avoid doing that, you have to make sure that you keep both in mind. Set up an agenda. Make sure that you establish a time balance. I think for some people, they probably see like, okay, I have so many things that I want to achieve. How can I do that with only 24 hours in a day? If I take away some time from my sleep, then I can achieve more. But the thing is, in order for you to even get to those goals that you want to achieve, you have to make sure that you are doing well. In order for you to think clearly, you need to make sure that you're getting the proper amount of rest, you're eating well. All of these things have to be taken into account. So set up an agenda, put aside time, make a schedule. Keep in mind, like, okay, I have to block off these hours for this. I have to block off these hours for that. And in order to do that, that can help you to better achieve your goals.
Okay, very good. Love that. Samantha?
I would say, what came to my mind was Moses. You know how he led the children all the way to the promised land. He didn't get a chance to see it. So I would say that when she made that comment, I thought of Moses. And I would just say that sometimes when we're trying to provide and just take care of everybody else's desires and needs and what they want, we automatically just become like we just tend to just lose track in what we want to do and what we feel like, because I think we're trying to focus on the bigger picture and we're not realizing the pain that we're causing in the process. Even when it comes to relationships, you could be so focused on getting those goals, getting a bigger house, and you don't know that you're hurting your partner in the process. That's what leads to arguments. So I think it comes back to alignment, how you guys need to just come together, try and have something that's going to bring you guys to a point where you're not going to lose your focus, especially with God. Sometimes you need to take that time to pray. Self-care is not only hygienic, it can really just be mainly just spiritual. Reading a book, taking some time to really stimulate your mind the ways it needs to be stimulated, educating yourself, adding a new light or a new perspective to how you can see things, help you solve your problem, being open-minded to how you can solve problems, not just your way, because I know that we can be stuck in our ways because we're so safe with how we think. We don't trust anyone else's. We're like, I don't think you know what you're doing. So I think it leads to you just trying to be open-minded to other people and hearing different ideas, talking to God about it, and just going through the motions and just remembering that you're not running out of time. even though time is moving fast, you cannot be so focused on the 24 hours because that's when you really lose yourself. You just need to go with the flow and just stay focused.
Okay. Mr. Hamilton.
Yeah, I agree with everything that was said so far. But to make it practical and simple, what I would say is in order to maximize your potential, especially in our fast-paced world, there needs to be a balance between holistic development and self-care and also being ambitious. Okay, so the only way we can come to our maximum potential is to have a balance between the two. If not, well, we're gonna talk about burnout later on, but we're gonna lose our identity in the end. So that's my thought on it.
That's so true. And I love the responses from all four of you. Now, the part B, have you ever experienced burnout due to trying to balance ambition and self-care?
Well, you know, when I accepted Jesus as my Lord and Savior and I got baptized, I became, and I still am,
Mhm.
you know, excited about the work of God. I have been, and at almost every activity, every committee, I would be present, I would be involved,
Mm.
I'd be there, and I would tell persons, for me to live is Christ and to serve. And also is the love of Christ compels me. That's say how do you do it? I say I keep saying them the AYA motto and pledge, the love of Christ constraineth me, as Paul said. However, I notice persons with me, Fabian, I notice you, because I would preach. I'm from the island of St. Lucia. I have preached in almost every church on the island. And persons would say, you're going to experience burnout. And so you need to relax. You need to take some time off. You know, not every appointment you get, you need to take. And so I didn't start feeling burnout, but I started feeling like I started to grow. Well, as I grew in Christ, I started getting more responsibilities from not just serving at my local church, serving at on the national committees now, and then now serving at the Caribbean Union, you know, in Bible Connection and so on. And I found myself engaged in so many different responsibilities that I had to start to relax a little bit before I experience what persons call as burnout. So I probably have not gotten there as yet. And so I've just relaxed a little bit. I'm still very much involved because I believe that I should do my best and give of my best to the Lord and give up the strength of my youth. And so here I am, just doing this. But at the same time I'm doing this, I'm trying my best to not go over the edge that I would experience that burnout. So anytime I feel like it's too much for me, I say, listen, I wouldn't be able to make it. And so you just turn it down a little so that you can refill and re-energize so that you can do what you're doing do what you're doing best.
Okay. I love that.
Can I say, what
Go
about
ahead.
health factors? What about like the health factors that come with burnout over time? Because let's say you're running multiple businesses, multiple organizations, and you get to a point where it can lead to dementia. And now you're losing your mind, you're forgetting everything, and then now the people that you're fighting and trying to burn yourself out for and work so hard for, now they have to go out their way to not take care of you. And it's just it's interesting how you go so hard for somebody else in that sense. I think we need to look into that in the sense of the long-term effects of not putting yourself first, because when you lose the mind, everything goes with it.
Yes, that's a very good point.
Yeah, just in addition to that, I remember one time, right? Y'all gonna love this. So actually, the beginning of this year, I was actually working at a job that was a 12-hour shift, right?
Mhm.
And I was so ambitious and zealous about making money because, as you work, you make money. But
Mhm.
the thing about it is that on this specific job, the more hours you work is the more money you make. So I'm like, all right, I'm gonna do this now. So
Mhm.
now this is what I started to do. So after Sabbath, Saturday night, I would work. That's a shift already. So I made some money there. Then on Sunday, I would work another 12-hour shift back to back. And I'm like, yes, I'm making the money. I'm zealous. I'm going to be rich. And
Mhm.
then on top of that, I would work an additional shift. So that's three shifts back to back.
Back to back.
Saturday night, Sunday day shift, then Sunday night. And by the time Sunday night came, I was burnt out,
Wow.
tired. And it's because I was so ambitious and zealous about making money. I was like, man,
Mhm.
I
Mhm.
just have to keep pushing my body. If I keep pushing my body, I'm gonna just make the money and get what I want in life. But in the end, I mean, I got the money, but at the expense of my health. I felt tired, exhausted. I was just a whole mess. So yes, I did experience burnt out before
Yeah.
because I was too zealous of
Mhm.
trying to, make extra money. But yes, I definitely experienced that on my job.
Wow. I can just imagine.
What's the
Yes,
cost?
Billy.
Yeah. I also have experienced a bit of burnout. Like in my first year of medical school, I remember they just give us so much amount of information that you have to learn in such a small amount of time.
Wow.
And I was like, okay, I want to learn as much as possible. And so I was actually sacrificing like hours of sleep. I went from getting like 8 hours to like getting 4 hours, thinking that, okay, I can be able to manage it. And as you can imagine, I was exhausted all the time. And I quickly realized that, okay, trying to be so ambitious and trying to be so overzealous, I was like physically being affected by this, and that it was causing me not to be able to remember things as well as I wanted to. I was making dumb decisions like in my practice exams. I would miss questions that I normally would be able to um, answer correctly. But because I wasn't sleeping well, it's like you think, oh yeah, you can be able to handle it. Not really. It's like your judgment starts to become affected. So I would make like silly mistakes on my exams, my practice exams, and I would always feel like, oh my gosh, why am I missing this? Why am I getting this wrong? And I feel as though over time it was affecting, like I didn't feel the effects right away, but it's like over time I was like making mistakes. I was almost kind of like forgetting a lot of things. And what I learned from that whole experience is like, one, you have to make sure that you maintain your overall self-maintenance. You've got to take care of yourself even though it may feel like I'm losing time because I'm making sure I'm getting those 8 hours, you have to think of it as like a self-investment. That time into making sure I'm physically well, I'm mentally well, I'm emotionally well, spiritually well, all of that, it's going to help you to be able to achieve your goals much faster. And you will actually be able to make correct decisions as you're doing that. So what I learned from that is time maintenance is so important. Like time management, you need to know like, okay, using your time effectively. Don't waste time. Don't be on your phone. If you know like, okay, I'm setting aside this block of time to study or to do some research, whatever it is, make sure that you put your time and energy into that. Don't kind of like cut aside time to like do other things. Make sure that, okay, if this is the time that I'm putting aside for, I'm putting all my attention and energy into that. Also, making sure that you talk to people, express how you feel. Sometimes making sure that you're emotionally well can look as though you are sharing your thoughts or even venting about certain things that may frustrate you. Because when you hold on to all of those emotions over time, it can build up, and that can also lead to you not being focused, not making sure that you are able to achieve your goals. So those, even though that was kind of like was a jarring experience for me. I'm happy that I went through that because I've learned like, okay, I need to make sure that my self-care is up there, like that
Mhm.
they are matching each other. Otherwise, I'm not going to be as successful as I want to be.
Very good. So
And but it's
go ahead.
easier
Go ahead,
though. I feel
Samantha.
like it's easier when, for me, how I look at it, I'm not encouraging for everybody, but for me, and it makes managing things easier would be look at everybody else's outcomes and say like there's women who actually like are mothers, wives, kids. Like there's so much people who have a lot more going on than just what I do. And what I look is how I look at how they go out their daily lives, how they do their time management, how they structure, okay, this is my time for the kids, this is my time for the kids, this is what they do for work, this is what they do when they're at home. So when I look at how they plan out their week, their day to day, and what they do for their mental health as well, I try their tactics and how I can do that for myself because there's times where I'll get burnt out from doing sessions and I'm like, man, I'm tired. I used to come home like 3 o'clock in the morning. I would lose sleep and I would think like spending all this time. I think I was just doing so much and I didn't have a plan. So now that I realize I'm getting more sleep and I'm taking the time to just set things aside and also looking at how I can also help others as well, where I'm not taking away the time from other things that I want to take care of. I'm managing that, say this day for this day to that day, and I keep like a calendar. So I'll say a calendar has helped me a lot with my planning and just going about my day to day, especially with classes. Because I know classes took up a lot of my time when it came to studying, and I've learned that sometimes the time you spent studying is unnecessary. If you just focus on the bullet points and just try to remember those points, that takes my study time a lot, like it shortens it in a bit.
Okay, awesome. So overall, even though we want to achieve, we don't want to spread ourselves too thinly. But then again, don't do it too broadly. Don't overdo it. Create balance. All right, back to you, Norris.
Very interesting discussion that is taking place. I want to get to the word no. When I was preparing for this discussion, I went on the website called Good Therapy. Good Therapy is actually a great website. If you're looking for a therapist, you can find a therapist there. And consensus of the therapists were saying it's okay to say no. Most people have a problem with saying no. So let me know, do you have a problem with saying no, and why? Do you feel bad when you say no? Even in church, if they ask you to do something, how do you feel?
Not anymore. Not anymore. Not
Go ahead,
anymore.
Samantha.
Not anymore at all. When I was younger, I think growing up in the church is a totally different thing when you're growing up as SDA kid. Like, so I need you to sing. So I need you to help me bring the food up. So I need you to do this. I think that that's just a community. So I feel like when you're growing up in that, you just feel obligated to do it because you've been around them for so long and you already had that bond. But as you get older, you're like, man, I'm really, really tired. And sometimes when you start putting yourself first and start saying no, it takes the edge off you and also it gives them that that it gives them a perspective of, you know what, let me give her some space. They start to respect your boundaries because now you set boundaries for yourself. I've learned that people are only going to walk all over you if you let them. If you set boundaries beforehand or over time, tell them, hey, I'm not doing none of that, they'll come to you correctly.
Good stuff. Okay. Anyone else? Is it okay to say no?
Yes, it is. It's definitely. Whereas I often feel bad that I tell people no or tell persons no. But it is a good thing at times to say no. But we need to be mindful of it as well. Because as Christians, we are taught to avail ourselves in service for God. We are taught to give where we are encouraged to give our best to God, avail ourselves, and serve God with all our heart, our mind, and our souls. We are encouraged to do these things, right? And even when we are called to serve, we are told, you know, we are encouraged to serve, whether it's chorister, a singer, elder, whatever it is. We are encouraged to say yes and serve to these things. But in the midst of it all, we need to recognize. I feel like we should say no if we realize that it's getting between us and God. I think that should be the one of the criterias. If you realize that too much it's affecting your personal relationship with God, That should be one of the criteria to let you know, okay, you need to say no for this. You
Wait a
know,
minute. Hold on 1 second, Mr. Isidore here. You're saying I'm serving in church, and if that service is getting between, I'll say, my relationship with God, I need
yes,
to say no. But wait a minute, I'm doing it for God.
you're right. You can do it. God, as much as God wants you to do, avail yourself, but He doesn't want you to get, because we are not being saved by works, you know. It is not
Right,
by the works that we do that's saving us,
right,
right? It's our
right.
connection with God. And if you realize that connection is being under attack or is under attack, then now you need to sit back and recognize. That's why 2 Corinthians 13 and verse 5 tells us, listen, examine yourself
Mhm.
to see whether you are in the faith.
Okay.
Yes, you active you, but you need to examine yourself every now and then to see whether you are in God's faith. And if you realize that, okay, you get so caught up in every morning, you know what? You have to or every Sabbath when you come to church, you just have to do this, do that, do this, do that. But you never have in time to really sit and let the message sink in, let the message get to you. You need to realize, okay, I need to cool out a step back on a few things so that I could really connect myself. Because the message, as much as it's important for us to serve, the message is for us all. Even whilst we're
Mhm.
part of it, that's why Paul says, I don't want to preach to men, lest I myself be a castaway. So
Mhm.
you don't have to be preaching and singing and excited and choristering and being clerk and elder and deacon, deaconess, and you yourself not there. You
Okay,
understand?
now, no. I understand what you're saying, and I really want to unpack this, but I also want to bring in another element where I want to bring in the other panelists as well.
Okay.
There are areas in our life that demand self-care. There are
Mhm.
also areas in our life that demands also ambition. So let me know what areas demand self-care. At this point in time, what I need is not ambition, I need self-care. At this
Mhm.
point in time, what I need is self-care, but not ambition. So let me start with, go ahead on, Kathleen. Tell me, how do you separate the two? What areas in your life demand right now ambition? And what areas in your life right now demand self-care?
That's a great question. I would say in my life, the area that really demands a lot of ambition is working towards my career. Once when I finish up with my schooling and I start residency, I want to be as ambitious as possible because I want to be the best pediatrician that I can be. However, I feel like for me, I can't really separate the two. I feel like that
Okay.
also requires me to make sure that I have good self-management, self-care, because I can keep trying and keep running towards achieving that goal. But if I myself am not well balanced in all of those areas, then
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to be able to get as far as I want to in establishing those goals and reaching that goal point. So I probably would say like my career, but I would also say like my family life, making sure I feel as though you can associate your family life with your self-care as well. For me, being around my family allows me to be able to heal. It also allows me to be able to kind of get back to that
Mhm.
center point where I feel at my best.
So
And I'd
that's
also say like
therapy.
my relationship, yeah, exactly. It is like therapy.
Okay.
Being able to share like my thoughts and my feelings with my family members, getting good advice and being able to like consider different perspective on things has been really important for me in helping me achieve my goals. Also, I would
Okay.
also say like
Uh-huh.
my relationship with God as well. Like that is important for me in terms of self-care.
Mhm.
Okay, because time is winding up on us. I'm gonna give room. Let me hear from Samantha and Mrs. Hamilton quickly, and then I'm gonna turn it back over to Sister Dixon Lane me on here.
Okay. I would say that between you, Brother Norris, and Fabian, I think you guys just basically expressed religious manipulation. I just wanted to harp on that for a second, where
Hey,
you could do so much things for God. Religious manipulation, where people would use like the God, like, oh, do this for God just to get things done because they're gonna play on your conscience to get things done. So you basically just answered your own question with that, and it makes us feel bad because we're like, oh, I want to do it, but I'm tired. But you said God, so I think I should be doing it because what if God makes you feel that way? No, that's just manipulation.
well, the
But for
thing about that
self-care,
is when I hold
mm-hmm,
on 1 second, let me go back. When I
Mm-hmm.
ask the question, I want to know. When Mr. Isidore said, just because you're doing this, you can burn yourself out. He's saying
Mhm.
that, well, it's okay to say no. I'm following up and saying, hey, so you mean to tell me I'm working
Right.
for yeah, but I'm working for God. And I also, you're telling me I have to say no doing it. So it's not a form I'm saying of manipulation. I'm here to ask the question, and Mr.
Right.
Isidore has answered it.
But the way you guys express it is kind of similar to it because people will use that in a form just to get things done, even if they're
Okay,
not doing it themselves. You're quick to ask me, but would you do it for yourself? And
okay,
also for me, what needs self-care right now, I would say for like my business and my wellness and aesthetic shop, I would say right now I'm trying to work on that right now. And plus I'm doing with school. So the things that I have that I want to achieve right now, most of my business is self-care. So I'm talking to women and men about skin, body treatments, your diet, nutrition. So I'm doing this thing on a daily. So when you talk about self-care, it's more internal because what you put in, you're gonna show it out regardless. When it comes to how you look, how you feel, there's always something going on in your moral compass or in your mind that's gonna make you want to relate to those things subconsciously. So I would say if you want to get to that point in life, we want to do certain things, you have to look at where you're trying to go and how you're gonna do it and apply yourself into that way. You want to read more books, take that time to just put an hour or 2 hours away. You're gonna have to just dedicate it. You're gonna have to
most
dedicate
definitely,
yourself.
most definitely, Mr. Hamilton.
Yeah, I know we're time is against us, but what I would say in terms of ambition and self-care, I'd bring the two together for me. My
Hmm.
spiritual life is one of those places where I could be more ambitious and zealous towards, and also have some self-care in it, the spiritual aspect. Because where I'm living right now is actually a Spanish country. So it's like every Sabbath I go to church, it's like I'm hearing Spanish all the time. And I do see myself sometimes slipping in terms of my ambition towards my spiritual life. But that's the area that I can definitely say I can be more zealous towards is my spiritual life. Definitely.
Okay, okay. Miss Dixon Lamey, back over to you.
This discussion is so interesting. I have so many questions, but it boils down to one. What advice would you give other youth when it comes to balancing ambition and self-care? So this is a final question.
My
What
advice,
advice? Yeah.
sorry.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
My advice would be first and foremost, if you have something that is within your heart, seek God first. Make sure that you pray and you ask Him, like, okay, this is what I want to do, and please show me the steps. Then
Mhm.
afterwards, I would establish a plan. So let's say that you want to, I don't know, like if it's something in regards to business, write out a plan and be very clear and specific about your goals.
Mhm.
Find mentors that are within the similar business that can provide you with good advice and that can kind of help, kind of just be someone that you can listen to and also like ask for ideas or just kind of like get good feedback on. Also, make sure that once again, you're very good with your time management. Always constantly have your agenda, write everything down. What are important due dates for certain things? And make sure that you set aside time for, okay, I need to make sure I get 8 hours of sleep. I put aside an hour that I'm focusing just for self-care alone. And
Mhm.
I think that being able to do these things and always going back to God and constantly asking Him for advice or showing you signs, whatever it is, so that way you can be able to achieve these goals will definitely help you not just become ambitious, but also like balance with that self-care.
Well said.
Okay. For me, I just want to just end with um a little quote from Fundamentals of Christian Education. Intemperance in eating and drinking, intemperance in labor, intemperance in almost everything exists on every hand. We are not to place the responsibility of our work upon others and crush them. Neither are we to overtax our own powers. It's simply saying that we need to find a balance. You know yourself, I'd say we know ourselves individually, and what may be an imbalance to you may not necessarily be one for me. And so, based on your life, your schedule, your spiritual walk, find a balance. Ask God to reveal to you, find a balance between your life. between your ambitious life, ambition in whether it is work, whether it is church, whether it is school, find a balance between it and help you now to not neglect, but at the same time, when you find that as you see and as you become ambitious in these fields, that you take time for self-care. And there, as the Lord and God will help you. I have experienced it myself. You know, I found a balance between my ambitious self, and also I found a balance in taking time for myself and God, and in several areas of my life, physically, mentally, and emotionally. So God will reveal it to you. Just ask Him, and He will help you. But you have to be deliberate about it, and He
Yeah.
will, yeah.
I think in addition to that, it's also important for us to talk to someone, especially someone who have their life more in a balanced atmosphere. And in doing so, you will be able to learn from them and implement, whatever they're doing, if it's time management or exercise, whatever they're doing, that's helping them in balancing their ambitious life and their self-care life. Just take what you can from this person and implement it into your own.
Samantha.
Get a facial, like for me. Get a facial, get
Simple
yourself
as
a
that.
nice, pedicure, manicure. For the men, it's positive reinforcement for all the hard work you're putting yourself in. You should want to treat yourself and making yourself feel good, just as like you like make other people feel good. It's the same thing. If you want to make others
You
happy,
can't
you
hear
should
you,
make yourself
Samantha. You're
happy.
muted.
No, I was saying you can make other people like happy. So you should definitely just, get yourself a facial, buy yourself something nice for the men, get yourself a nice watch. It's okay to spoil yourself a little bit. Makes you feel good.
Awesome.
There's so many ways you can like do it. It's up to you.
Yeah. Even a simple massage too.
Yes, a massage
Yeah.
is therapeutic and it's good for the body.
Okay. So ambition and self-care are not opposing forces. They're not. They are partners. Without self-care, ambition can burn out. Without ambition, self-care can lack direction. The sweet spot is learning to honor both, working hard toward your dreams while also giving yourself permission to rest, recharge, and enjoy the present moment. Balancing self-care and ambition is essential to long-term success. Research consistently shows that those who integrate well-being practices into their ambitious pursuits experience greater longevity in their careers, more consistent productivity, and ultimately achieving more meaningful outcomes. Without proper balance, relentless ambition can lead to burnout and diminishing returns. Strategic self-care practices boost productivity, creativity, and sustainable success. Create consistent routines and set realistic goals that honor both achievement and well-being. You should also employ proven time management techniques. Build strong support networks that will provide you with essential perspectives and emotional resilience. Finally, regular assessment and adjustment of your balance is vital as circumstances change. Don't forget that. Remember that success isn't just about reaching the top. It's about being well enough to enjoy the view when you get there. Once again, we have heard it from our panel of young people. It was such an interesting and, I wish this conversation could continue, but unfortunately, it had to come to an end. Thanks everyone for participating in today's discussion. Thank you all for making episode 3 of season 2 possible. So I leave you with a quote from Mallory Brown. Rest and self-care are so important when you take time to replenish your spirit. It allows you to serve others from the overflow. You cannot serve from an empty vessel. Remember to like, share, and subscribe. This was Youth in the Loop. See you in episode 4. Bye, everyone.